I think we've all dealt with expectations. Expectations are cold and calculating at times, so don't worry. Live up to what is provided by love, light, and bowl of good food. But expectations exist for a plethora of reasons. Potential is one matter, and another is consistency of what you've already done through actions. A mental space of expectations renders how one prioritizes their beliefs. This could be distributed by what is going to happen for you in the future, or what others expect from you in the now. So I can say that expectation can be like a bubble gum. Chew it all out until the flavor is gone. Perhaps it was used to your advantage to get you more motivated, or it was just there. The tough part of demanding expectations is that if stressed enough, they can cause plot holes. Or on another angle of the spectrum, or in another manner, pressure makes diamonds. So when one is small, one can wonder what to do without help. Um, and how heavy does it get as far as that expectation? I think that means a lot because that can be an expectation that you've put on yourself um, because you feel that you need to represent who you are and who is it that makes you. Um, that means a lot. Um, I know there's a lot of many things that make me. Um, and that begins with God, and that begins with the source of truth and love that goes beyond something that I've ever recognized in other in other areas that I feel like are heavy expectations on the shoulder. Um, but I think that is one that I think people may consider in all areas of aspect. I think that's why people do like their genetic history and what they've been through and seeing what goes behind their background, their ethnicity, what goes behind um, perhaps like even you having you pride at a high school or university, or what goes behind having like all the things that make up who you are in your DNA. So that weighty expectation, it could be very heavy. Um, it could be very light depending on where you are in your situation. So it doesn't matter whose expectation it is, from whom is it coming from? So like, these expectations may matter to you if, say, it was your parent that wanted you to do really well, as opposed to somebody that this teacher that you didn't like. Um, whereas opposed to like, those things may matter in all its fullest form when you do have expectations from many of different people. That just means that, hey, maybe your genetic makeup is not complex, but maybe it's meant for something bigger, or maybe it's something that people consider to be. They look at you and they go, okay, that's there's something that we're yearning for from you, or there's something that we think that you can produce that may even help them more than you. But I think that I speak about that, but it's just like you take on a little bit and a little bit and a little bit, and it may become something even more. And so you've done it the right way, I think, in that matter. Um, but when will it stop? If it does stop, um, then expectations could get quite burdensome too. If you're constantly bombarding yourself with disillusionment of what are unnecessary expectations. But I think people deal with expectations in many different ways. I know I've dealt with it in like many different lifestyles, because those are, I think, expectation also comes with certain goals that you would like to reach as well. But regardless of that as well, I think you always want to be able to expect something from yourself as opposed to somebody telling you. Um, But I've done things where, I didn't put any expectation on myself either. I didn't burden myself either. And it gets you something that I think can be out of the ordinary, or it can be something that meets, you know, something that's more than just what it seems, pretty much. Um, so, like, another good question I asked is, what were the conditions for such expectations? Um, like, why is that? Why are those expectations in place? Um, how is it that such things are going on? Because in the same verses, like, where are these expectations coming from? Um, like, who are these expectations? Almost is a certain kind of form of entity that I like to speak of, because it's like these expectations almost become ideas of wanting you to either succeed or fall, or determine, what kind of role you're going to become or which way you want to go. Um, and so these expectations almost become like almost an algorithm based, that I kind of want to speak about later. But it's like, it's almost technological to a point where, like, is the humane society humane society if the humane part of you is taking on a taking on a mold that is important to you, these expectations become, are they something that you would like to match? Are they something that you would like to be a part of? And I think it's quite, it is, to me right now, this is just an open topic. But yeah, I think to someone like this isn't something I like to deal with. But it's one of those situations you have to carry on, because regardless if you like those expectations or not, they will be there. Um, and so I found that I propelled in the most gritty of expectations, some of the most impossible odds. But it remains to be seen if expectation sets the bar, or if it is the standard we must overcome. The one endearing perspective that I surely wish I could have said this a lot earlier is the fact that the world in all its glory and sin, and all its happiness and unpredictable choices, unpredictable chances, or to retroactively surmise, the world is going to try to make you into a robot. That's the output we're getting right now. With even with this technological advancement, is there's so many choices, so many mistakes a human can make, so many different perspectives, trying to find the best answers in all the busyness. Like, society has set it up where there's so many there's so many things that you would like to have for you or your family, and you want, in the capitalistic point of view, it's like you want things for you want more things for, just having fun or whatever. um, but it's like, you know to cut it and dice it, there's something that you have to um, appreciate, I guess I would like to say, um, that when you do find that calming, almost calming presence, the world wants to kind of turn it on you, where it goes, okay, now that you're calm, now that you've fully become, I guess, a comfortable being, and knowing that you've kind of like reached those expectations, so you won't be bothered, or you won't be maligned, or you won't be thrown in the furnace, because of the fact that, like, yeah, you understand that, or if you're living in America, or if you're living in a good situation, where you literally have, at least you have shelter, at least you have food, water, like that, you need to take advantage, because there are people that are being taken advantage of. And so you're saying to yourself, like, you need to meet all these expectations because you're proud of who you are, and you've said that, like, this is how far we've come as a society, which I would be proud of, until the point where these expectations become almost like to a point where it's like, yeah, we see you saying things perfectly, and we see you doing the right work, but we want something more out of you, which is kind of strange to me, because yeah, you're calm, and then the whole situation is, I would say it's come to a point where, it dilutes the human soul. Um, and it's a place where myself, would want you to know that on all of that, you cannot lose your confidence. The thing that makes a human go, which is a soul. Like, it's almost to the point where it's like we become computers with how we gain our information. That it's like, okay, we know this, we know this, we know this. Like when somebody asks a simple question, sometimes we're not giving this simple yes or no answer. It's like we know this, we know this, we know this, we know this. But I think it's the fact that like we know the expectations are with the simple yes or no. So it's like we need to speak about what is kind of relevant and important, and how we see fit, because those expectations get um, kind of like it kind of makes you like a person that you really shouldn't have a full stake in, I guess I would want to say, because you're you're a good person if you're a person who's calm and you're taking on the idea that this isn't something that we should be we should like kid around about. But you know that's another one thing that I'm still talking about in the same sense is like I might contradict what I just said with the kid part, but it's like, yeah, expectations has rendered us as being far as like, you know I think there's an almost like a norm now that we know that we were good as kids, but adults, just the adult section is that society has made us to want to grow up. But what's growing up? Like what's the truth about growing up? And I see that there's a lot. There's actually a whole bunch of wisdom, and there's a whole bunch of truth, and there's a whole bunch of um, extra good, extra good appliance applying of how you see what humans can be like in the true fruition of it. But I'm just saying that like sometimes society through the eventual um, determination of trying to get through even a job, like even trying to get through work, even trying to get through schoolwork, even trying to survive, even trying to be able to find all the find all of the things that you know that is true that makes things work in a place that's kind of convoluted. Like through all of that, like self determination, you're still able to find yourself to be willing to make change and willing to be somebody that still has that that inner person, that inner kid about them that like, yo, this wasn't what's supposed to be that way. Oh no, let's forget it because the adults are it's just the adults. Like, you know what I mean? Like, if it shouldn't be that way, it shouldn't be like that. And like, especially what's going on right now. But like, it's come truth to the point where we're kind of realizing, there are things out there that's like, dude, that should not be happening at all. And so it's come to a point where it's like now the speaking up part is highly valuable because now we've reached expectations. Um, I don't know if that's through the past few decades, or is it considering the past that we went from humans in about 1700 going through ships, traveling through ships, to a point where it's like these cities, these small towns, these cities, these localities, these communities, these yeah, just communities, regardless if it's on the internet, social, or physical places. Like we've all come to a point where we've noticed that you've got to have a certain social norm about you. But I think that what comes to a point where it's like we know what peace looks like, and we know what is truth, and it could sound so simple, but I think the fact is, it's like, yeah, the reason why I'm speaking about expectations is because it's not we were pushed to this point as far as a sad turning point, but it's more so like, look, man, like these expectations has grown on us too because yeah, we've realized our soul, and we fully committed to what we have become in light of all of this. And so now it's like we're thoroughly representing the expectations we had, that we decided to like almost say, hey, look, like we don't need this one, we don't need this one, we don't need this one. Um, but now it's like, okay, now we understand, like, okay, now there's a mandatory minimum at least, um, regardless if it's social inequality or if it's like just being able to appreciate, what we're worth, or being able to be somebody that we know that, it is it's a constant progress, as opposed to saying like, man, we back down on this and we're not part of it, so we're just gonna, it's not a part of anything. You know what I mean? So I just think, that weighty expectation that I believe is looked upon as society's finest symbol. Um, like what can that soulful person do if that person is not beneficiary of his or own soul? It just sounds quite odd to me that like you do have all this expectation on a person, and all this for such minimal, and yet we know that there are a lot of people out there that don't get these rights and don't get these opportunities. But what are the people that say, hey, look, like this is what you get because you're either like just surviving or hanging on. That to me it still seems odd to me. It just seems odd to me. So I think that is where a selfless person can defeat all expectation, because in the end, expectation can have its own wants. But what is behind the wants? Did the expectation wish to see you get better? Was there a real reason behind such remorse, training, development, persistence? Like I could sit here and list out all these things, but for what purpose though? Like to make me sound better? To make myself more reputable? While I think order is good, structure calls for expectation in a way that benefits how the structure builds an individual up. So it's kind of like that upkeeping of knowing, you know, like there's this person. Um, well, people. So let me just continue. So it's like saying, this structure remains healthy if the expectations remain healthy. Um, this is where I ask you to go beyond your roles as a reliable person, because people can expect so much more from a person that has tangibles that are flexible to meet those expectations. Um, like that can mean a lot for somebody that albeit they they respond to their role well, and these expectations are roles that are that kind of like lead a person into a better role. Um, so it's not. I don't think I could say expectation is negative all the time, but I would just like to think that these expectations are easily met by somebody that is more flexible, or what other people like to consider as open mindedness, or somebody that doesn't lose their temper, doesn't doesn't just justifiably come off wrong, or um, respects the person in the right manner. Like these are things that I just feel like are expectations that we would all be just fit to know. But it's like where would we go without having these expectations? Um, I think there could be a higher threshold, but um, you know, I think there's a lot of meaning to what I could just say to that right now. But let me just continue. So expectation can play a part between the stars. And what I mean by stars are perhaps like celebrities, just really bright spots in society, people that represent a group of people. that are like maybe an individual or group of people that represent a bigger group, or stars can be people that actually just have really good talent, um, that kind of that people just bring about eventually just because somebody expected something from them. But it's more so like there's a reason why you're a star, and it's I would say it's the people they represent, and they cater to well, these people they represent, they cater to, and they involve themselves with. It's these people that are essentially the the soul of a group, I guess you would say. And it's knowing that these stars can be a middle ground. They hope for the truth and the work that they produced, because I felt like those were the expectations that many stars dealt with. The pliability of being faithful in something while maintaining a constant presence with their following, fans, and the people they work best with. Um, I think there's a fine line of just a fine line of when they know when there's a truth at hand, um, they can exist in it, and then they can allow other people to exist in it as well. But it's not to say allow; it's like other people know it too. It's just these stars are really well equipped to being able to um, represent how they feel, but like it's easily more projected because we're familiar with their own expectations, and we're familiar with how they um, you know even like characterize themselves, but how they even represent themselves in their work. But I find that it's the projection of knowing that they do it really well, that they project really well. So I think that pliability, being faithful. Yeah, like so I was saying, it's amazing to see your own expectations become fruitful. I think that's what stars are able to do. Is they had a dream, or they had a want to become, um, you know, they had a dream. They had a dream of something that they knew was possible, and so they said, "Hey, look, I knew what the expectations were. I'm going to overcome them, and so I could become that person." Or they just think, they were different, and they found out that they were different and unique, and they ended up presenting themselves to a fan base that maybe was highly, maybe it could be strategic, maybe it was way out of the picture, maybe it was fans that are highly loyal to the fact of what they believe in. Many different kind of reasons why, but they're good reasons. Um, and you know, it's the idea to house the openness of a truth that you feel welcomed in. Like I feel like that's what stars do, is you just feel welcomed in what they represent and what they have become because of what a whole bunch of people can do, and understanding that if you support a person that is like what they are about, then that star, that celebrity, that whoever is a star, like that becomes, okay, now I get it. Now I get why this person is that way. Why, like for example, a star could be a movie actor or actress, and they may represent a character, and that character could actually represent a real person here on Earth. And so that person could actually represent how that person exactly feels at the very given moment. Um, if you're not so edgy on the Matrix situation, but it's more so like if you understand, we're all trying to meet certain expectations that are difficult, but it does help when people have the same expected truth and hope and purpose and love and appreciation for what we can all have common knowledge in. And I think at this point it's tough. It's tough because you know truth is getting a little haywire with choosing A, B, and C, one, two, and three. as to what is really going on. But it's I'm going back to the expectation that we all live in our own good realm. But what can we do to provide a better spark is genuinely what I'm about right now. So I think just saying that fact, it really is sad when expectations are bottlenecked. Who gets to be higher or more prominent? Um, when I think many of life's expectations were created when love wasn't the answer. So I think there have been people have, maybe created their own expectations for themselves, or other people have been able to manipulate people because love wasn't there for that person. Love wasn't there for that person, so they didn't find out why is it that that person gets that feeling, that treatment, that appreciation, that so why is it that that person isn't like when love isn't involved, then uh, it gets to a point where I think it becomes very difficult for those people that existed in something that's not in the same likeness of love. And so there becomes expectation, and those expectations become weighty as well because those are expectations that sometimes can go against what my expectations are as an individual, or what my expectations are as a person fitting in a role in society. Um, Regardless if you are part of a society, that's okay. But there can be a gruesome expectation that I battle with in my past, um, when you know when there are people that expect them to be higher, or to be more prominent, and then when they force it, and then when they try to think that it is that way. Like I battle with that too in my past, and it's tough delivery. I'll say that much. Um, my own my own expectations started with being the best, seeing the best in people. That starts from since I was born, all the way to like growing up and figuring out if people really are that way. Do they fall short? Because people fall short, but um, do they look to the negatives and not all the good out there? Like because I want to, my expectation is why have enemies when you can have friends? Because you're not having too much of a when you're seeing the best in people. It's it's almost like there's a shared commonwealth um, that you don't really have to stress too much about. Um, and if that's not the expectation, like if that's not what it is, then I think that's where all the bad things start to intersect. That's where all the confusion starts to happen. Um, because I think people do get a little bit fearful when they start to, when they do fall short and when they start to look at the negatives. Um, and then they could let it be led into a path that's not so well off for them. But it may seem like that because that's what society wants you to expect a good American dream to be. Nice cars, nice watches, nice jewelry, an amazing savings account, um, you know, performed by things that are, not the greatest of standards. Like it's really strange to me when I can't. It is really strange to me when I can't be friends with somebody, because when I can't be friends with somebody, I just feel like there's something more going on there, whether that's good or bad. Um, so yeah, just like I said, that's something I battle with. Not like as I battle with that direct person, but something that's like, okay, well, okay, that makes sense. That makes sense. Yeah, so because I know that I knew that when it comes to a point when the truth goes out, it doesn't misrepresent feelings, but instead it shines a light on emotions that we confronted with amongst those expectations. So I've seen the truth since as far back as I can remember until now. Like, that I grew up with seeing the best in people, and then I lived it, and I come to appreciate it when I see it now. And um, that's not to say I haven't witnessed in the recent past as well, maybe like 20, 30 years ago, or in the history of us, like, spanning from, just like to say, my own appreciation of, where I come from and my ethnic background, or in the history of the United States, or in the history of how people have, not even just history, but how people have become and what they've done in certain situations, um, and what the human soul really represents. Looking out for information, warning people, looking out for information, and applying it to themselves, looking out for information, building out successful dreams, like those considerations. I think they all started with expectations to either better themselves or to get somewhere. So not to sound redundant, but you know, is to know in this information age, what we ask for, it is something that we will receive if you are expected of it. Um, so slowly but surely, like the tortoise, he may have asked for many different things, the tortoise, but I think maybe he may have asked for one major thing, one serious thing that has come to truth. Um, and I think that the expectation has actually made that tortoise a little bit stronger because, I think me personally, like I've seen a lot of different things. I've seen a lot of the real reasons as to why things are, and um, I think expectations had to be met almost because of the fact of who I am as an individual. But it becomes more of a certain commonplace to know um, that since I was able to overcome those expectations, people were there with me and saying, "Hey, look, we believe in it too, and we're faithful by it too." It's just how do you meet those expectations and where it's going to go is quite the development. I would think it's a little bit hard too as well. So I like to think that perhaps a clear idea, like for me, I've always wanted to let you know about how I feel about what is representing how I feel, and that happens in many different characters and many different historical past figures as well, but and people that I like to think that are my friends as well too. But it's um, you know there's something to it. There's something to it to making sure that I wanted to be somebody that I know I am, and um, having to be able to reach these expectations, I felt like could have been a little bit better, and it could have been a lot better. But I also think that right now, especially, and I would like to like leave it at this, is that when impossible expectation odds have been met, are you thinking the same way? Are you thinking about the same evaluation that has been um, so repeatedly in motion for constant amount of years, decades, that um, are we going about the same grandeur for a singular purpose um, that we all come to love and renown? And so, yeah, that expectation is kind of difficult too, and that's why I like to keep I like to keep many of my world's galaxies input kind of diverse because um, I think that the expectations that develop for a person that is just one person and one person only, and that one person is be all and everything. Like I think that's a sizable expectation, but I think you always have to have the idea that there's a reason why you are who you are, and so my reason is that there has to be there has to be a common truth that comes into effect as well, because I need to know that, um, almost that we're on the same page, but it's like I need to know that we can all have the same support for each other, so that when it does come push to shove and those expectations that are increasing in the negative way, that we can kind of like easily defeat those kind of expectations. And so um, I felt like, yeah, man, I expected myself to come in light with different perspectives and ideas, but what I've been learning now is that, this whole communication part of me, trying to speak to how I feel, represent how I feel, try to speak to somebody that I know is out there that is appreciative to how I feel. Like, these many expectations become almost to a light where, yeah, we can hone in on one idea, and now we can hone on a multiple ideas even more so that we won't lose sight of our expectations while we grow in our expectations. So I'll just leave it at that again, because this one is this expectation I had in my mind that I wanted to do so much more. Um, that I've had these amazing thoughts in my head back in the day, that continually had been brought up, and that I felt like, if the idea is there, if the motion is there, then we can be a part of something that, um, does recognize what is going on. But I think my expectation, um, perhaps shouldn't have been that way, and so I think, just me speaking about this in a more quieter piece is a little bit better. But I think we can enjoy what we really felt like is the truth. And so whether I consider it a round table, or whether I consider it like, um, a whole bunch of people, um, under one roof, or people coming in and out, people always coming in and out, and see, what is the truth. I want to have some fun, or I want to have some more appreciation. I want to have some more food. Like, like, these are tangible things that I think we could grow up with, that we could continue to evolve in, just because, I wouldn't want you ever to have something that's not a light burden, because the expectation is tough. So I hope that you can get to a point where you can defeat all those expectations, or you can overcome all those, or conquer all those expectations, and see to it that there's a better light out there in the future, man. And woman, child, animal, dog, cat, da 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 da. Peace out. Bye bye. See you.